England setting amid 200-year-old elm trees and charming colonial homes, stately sea captains' homes, and charming Cape Cod salt boxes. Shoreway Acres is a graceful blend of Cape Cod's past and present. Shoreway Acres, proud sponsor of Falmouth Community Television.
Gentlemen, and welcome to the Monday, February 24, 2014 meeting of the Falmouth Board of Selectmen. I invite you all to rise and join the board as we recite the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
A few procedural announcements before we begin our regular meeting. My name is Brent Putnam. I'm chairman of the Board of Selectmen. To my left is Selectman Mary Pat Flynn, past chair. Town Manager Julian Suso and Assistant Town Manager Heather Harper. To my right is Vice Chair Doug Jones, Selectman Rebecca Moffett, and Selectman Kevin Murphy is not going to be joining us this evening. If you have a cell phone or some other device that might spontaneously make noise, we ask that you silence it or turn it off for your duration with us. Please refrain from any conversations here in the room or immediately outside the door because the noise can interrupt the proceedings. If you would like to speak this evening, there will be opportunities for public comment. We ask that you adhere to the speaker's policy, a copy of which is on the door. Please wait to be recognized by the chair, and when you are recognized, please come to the lectern, identify yourself for the record. We may know who you are, but that doesn't mean the audience, the folks at home, or our recording secretary do. Please direct all of your comments and questions through the chair, and do not engage in any debate or discussions directly with the audience. If you choose to leave the meeting before we are concluded with our business, please understand we haven't finished our business and do so quietly. And if you'd like to record the meeting, you may do so using audio. You simply need to announce it at the beginning of the meeting. And if you'd like to record using video, you will need to get permission from the board. So at this time, is there anyone who wishes to record this meeting using audio or video? Sir. All right. And your name? Josh Levette? Levesque. Okay. Thank you very much. Anyone else? All right. The announcement section, we have a quick update from Chief Dunn.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Edward Dunn, Chief of Police. I wanted to thank you for this opportunity to update the board as well as the citizens of Falmouth about an article that appeared in the paper recently about increase in house breaks, residential breaks, commercial breaks, and motor vehicle breaks. On the surface, it appeared that the breaks may have been on a rise, but further reports, we did a survey for the last 5 years, and it was determined that we are at our average. And I don't like using that word as an average because we're always working to lower our residential breaks and our business breaks. But I'll just give you some numbers real quick just so that you have a good understanding. 2010, now this is residents, commercial, and vehicles all compiled together. 2010, we had, during the month of January and February, 73. 2011, January and February, 88. 2012, 112. 2013, we were at 61. And in 2014, we're at 65. So there's a very slight increase. A lot of those breaks have to do with vehicles. And just to give you an idea of what we're doing at the police department, we have increased our patrols through the residential neighborhoods that have been affected, as you know, when the officers aren't responding for calls for service. I just tell you real quickly, the other night, one of our officers doing so discovered a break on his own. It wasn't called in. It was in the middle of the night. There was fresh snow. He investigated the footprints and discovered that there was a house break. We've also have a list of suspects that were known to do house breaks. We've had one under arrest recently. We're trying to tie him into some of the recent breaks. We also have warrants for an individual who we do know conducted a house break, and we're actively looking for him. Some of the other pieces here for prevention measures that we can't do it alone. We need the community to help us. Prevention measures. If your neighbors are away on weekends, you know, maybe take in their papers, take in their trash cans, shovel their walks. That might be a little hard this year with all the snow, but it would help. Lock your doors. That is huge. Several homes that were broken into, the doors aren't locked. Car breaks, doors aren't locked. I can tell you that we have viewed this on video, such as down at the mall and in some residential areas that have cameras, where the suspects will go through the neighborhoods and try the doors. If it's locked, they keep moving on until they can find the unlocked car. So if you lock the cars, car brakes will drop probably 100%. And don't leave valuables in the car. Cameras, laptops, put them in the trunk or take them in the house. Leave lights on, make it look like the house is being lived in. And one of the other big things is be good neighbors. Look out for your neighbors. If you see something or hear something, call the police department. I've been told several times, some of my officers have been told, we didn't want to bother you. We're there 24/7. It takes a phone call. I would rather get 4 phone calls of a suspicious person or a suspicious car and let us investigate it at the time. We may be able to prevent the break, but if nothing else, it will give us information as to who's actually in your neighborhood. But I just wanted you to know that, you know, there's a slight increase, but house breaks are not out of control, and I would love to see it much lower than that. But we're a seasonal community, as most towns on the Cape. And because it's seasonal, you have neighborhoods that are really empty, and we've always had house breaks. So I hope that gives you a little insight as to what's going on.
Helps a lot, Chief. Anybody have any questions for the Chief? All right. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Any other announcements from the public? Any other announcements from the board or from the town manager's office?
No, sir.
I do have an announcement myself for those interested. Today was the first day for papers to be pulled if you're interested in the spring town elections. And for myself, I wanted everyone to know that I will not be running again this year. So there's going to be a vacant seat. The It's now time for public comment. This is an opportunity every one of our meetings. We give 10 minutes for public comment, 2 minutes per person. Anyone who wishes to speak may do so on any topic that is not on our agenda. So anyone who would like to say something at this time?
Happy birthday. You gotta be kidding me.
Happy birthday, dear Pat. Happy birthday.
Oh my God, you guys are unbelievable. You are amazing.
Mr. Chairman, if I may speak, today happens to be a very important day in Falmouth. It's the esteemed selectman, Mary Pat Flynn, happens to be 80 years old today. And State Representative Tim Madden has a presentation.
I feel odd with Eric standing right there, giving a presentation that rightfully should be him doing after 20 years of serving this great town.
After 20 years, you can do it.
We promised to be brief, so I'm going to just read the comments. It's from the State House, and it says, Mary Pat Flynn, in recognition and the celebration of your 80th birthday and for your years of service and dedication to and all the wonderful things you do for the Cape and for the town of Falmouth as a selectman and as a county commissioner, given this 28th day of February 2014 at the State House in Boston, Massachusetts, and it's signed by the Speaker and myself and David Vieira. So, Mary Pat, thank you for all you do. I love the hat. Speech.
Thank you, Eric. Thank you, Q. That's great. Barbara. Everybody. Sydney. All right. Pretty good. Was that surprise?
Did you want to say a few words, Pat?
Oh, well, what is there to say? I think 80 is the new 60.
You should probably use Pat. You should use the microphone.
I'm not going anywhere. Unfortunately, I think it's really wonderful that one can grow old and be active in the community and maintain one's physical and mental capacity, which at least I try my very best to obtain my mental capacity. My physical capacity is just great. So I'm very grateful that I can live this many years and continue to be active, and I plan on doing so for quite a few years to come. Thank you all very much for this wonderful cake and celebration and thinking about me. I really appreciate it.
Let the games begin.
One face that isn't here, Troy Clarkson had reached out to us a few weeks ago to stage this, so.
I saw Sydney, his daughter, out there.
Nice hat, Pat.
Nice hat.
All right.
Keep my hat on.
Well done.
Anyone else who'd like to say something this evening?
She doesn't look a day over 75.
Thanks, Marie.
All right, going once, going twice. Up. Good evening, Ron.
Isn't this nice?
That's a wonderful act to follow, but a tough
Need
one.
some forks and
Congratulations, Pat, and for so many years of service. And thank you so much for your strong support for the Cape Light Compact. And once again, I would like to come back to the town and to the audience to remind everyone that the Cape Light Compact has a energy efficiency program that we can all take advantage of. And after such a kind of a doozy of a winter we're having, I know that all of our homes can benefit from additional insulation, more efficient lighting. It's kind of dark as well, and appliances and different things. So there are free assessments that can be done of your homes. They look at all the appliances. There are incentives for replacing inefficient appliances and older ones, and this can be done. And all you need to do is call 800-797-6689. As I've said every time I've come, our operators are waiting, and so you're most welcome. And it is a great program that actually we all pay for through our electric bills, and there's been tremendous benefit to the town at the municipal, business, and residential level. So I encourage businesses as well to check in, see what's good for them, how they can benefit, and I think it's a great system that's improved. It's a countywide system as well as Martha's Vineyard is involved. So thank you.
Just to clarify, twice you've said the number is 6689, but your card says 6699.
Oh, sorry, 6699.
Okay.
The card is correct. Okay. A little, yeah, anyway, thanks. Okay, so it's 800-797-6699. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Going once, going twice. All right, next item on our agenda, we have minutes of meetings, February 10, 2014, public session.
I would vote to move approval of the February 10th, 2014 public session minutes.
Second.
A motion and a second to approve them as presented. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposition? It's unanimous. And then we have the February 10, 2014 minutes of the executive session.
I move vote approval and not to release the minutes of executive session February 10th, 2014.
Second.
Okay, motion and a second. Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposition? It's unanimous. All right, then we have the summary of actions. I'll read through these, and if anyone would like to hold one, let me know. Item number 1, application for 3 one-day wine and malt liquor licenses, Cape Cod Canal Region Chamber of Commerce, 45th Annual Scallop Fest at the Cape Cod Fairgrounds. Item number 2, request use of Bartolome Conservation Area at 667 Sandwich Road for a wedding ceremony. This is May 31, 2014. I'm sorry, the Buzzards Bay, the Scallop Fest was September 19th through the 21st, 2014. Item 3, authorized letter acknowledging Cape Light Compact Vote, the municipal aggregation plan. Item number 4, authorize town manager to award contract amendment 3 in the amount of $4,035,500 to the agreement for wastewater and nutrient management systems wastewater dated October 2012 with GHD. Item number 5, approve payment from the No Place for Hate donation account.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to hold one for just
Okay.
briefly.
So a motion then for items 2, 3, 4, and 5?
Move items 2, 3, 4, and 5 for approval.
Second.
A motion and a second for items 2, 3, 4, and 5. Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition? Unanimous. Ms. Flynn, item
Yeah,
1.
Mr. Chairman, I held item 1, which is the application for the 3 one-day liquor licenses at the, for the Cape Cod Canal Region Chamber of Commerce for the annual Scallop Festival, because for years and years and years, this has been held in Bourne. And it has been so successful. I've attended many of them over the years, as has Sheriff Cummings. And we know what a great crowd comes to the Scallop Festival. And what has happened is there have been so many people coming that Bourne at this time doesn't have the capacity to really handle. It's like, what, 55,000, 60,000 people come to this festival. So the Canal Region Chamber of Commerce has moved it to the Barnstable County Fairgrounds for the very first time. So I think now it is in Falmouth, so to speak, even though we don't have any ownership to the Cape Cod Fairgrounds. But nevertheless, it's the first time that the festival will be held in Falmouth. So I hope that Falmouth residents who may not have gone over the bridge to enjoy it would stay on this side and take advantage of the festival, because it's really incredible. So with that, I will move approval of the application for the Cape Cod Canal Region Chamber of Commerce.
Okay, so we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition? It's unanimous.
I took your speech, Mary.
Thank you very much. We appreciate your support, and if I could just say.
If you could come to the microphone, just so the folks at home can hear you. And
Maria Oliva, President and CEO of the Cape Cod Canal Region Chamber, working with Sheriff Cummings, who helped us through the years set up the Scarlet Festival. We couldn't have done it without him. And we're telling people that it's 12 miles from Buzzards Bay. It's not a big deal. But the fact that it's in here, we've had a lot of support from Falmouth officials, a lot of support from the Falmouth Chamber of Commerce, and we want Falmouth to be a stakeholder in this. So we don't look at it as just being on the north of the site. It doesn't matter what side of the canal you're on. The canal is not a divider, it's a connector. So we want everybody to come, and I so appreciate your support. And I also want to congratulate you on your birthday. I saw people that I worked with 25 years ago that came in. So thank you so much for your remarks, and I appreciate the support of the board, and we will invite you to our ribbon cutting ceremonies. And thanks to Sheriff Cummings, who's been such a help throughout the years, and I couldn't have done it without his support. So thank you all very much.
Just one logistical thing. I believe this is just the one-day wine and malt liquor licenses we approved. There'll also have to be something going through the special event? Or do we not control this because the Chamber of Commerce?
I think it's because
I mean,
the
because the
fairgrounds,
Because of
it's
the
not town
fairgrounds.
property,
Okay.
so.
That's great.
So it's 3 days now.
Yeah, it's 3 one-day liquor licenses.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, and with that, we have our first wetland hearing this evening. This is a public hearing. The Falmouth Board of Selectmen will hold a public hearing under Section 240-77, the wetland regulations of the zoning bylaws of the town of Falmouth this evening in this room, Falmouth Town Hall, on the application of Peter R. Fenn, trustee, WLJ nominee trust for permission for the repair and maintenance of the existing licensed solid fill stone and concrete pier, riprap repair, removal of the existing concrete ramp, and construction of stone steps at 43 Church Street in Woods Hole, Massachusetts. The area affected, Little Harbor. Interested parties may view this file in the Selectman's office. The applicant's representative, I presume?
Correct. Joel Kubik with Holmes McGrath for the applicant. As you said, this is 43 Church Street down in Little Harbor. It's existing stone pier. It's got previous Chapter 91 licensing. It's also got a conservation approval to do this work. We're here in front of you again to repair the existing solid concrete pier and some of the timber pier portions of it. It's a concrete ramp which isn't really of use anymore, and it's somewhat dilapidated, as well as this concrete walks, so they are proposing to remove those and rebuild them and re-nourish the beach where those structures are being removed. So again, it's just for your approval for the special permit portion of it.
Okay. Questions from the board?
Is this a private beach we're talking about?
It's a private residence, yes.
And is it just for that area at 25 Church Street? Is it
43 Church Street,
43
it's private
Church Street.
residence, it's just their property, correct.
Okay.
Well, I just wanted to comment on the possible alternative that was suggested by Marine Fisheries in terms of building a different type of a pier. But I think in talking with the chairman of the Conservation Commission, who mentioned that this pier was probably built sometime in the late 1800s, early 1900s, and that any disturbance of it would be far greater than attempting to completely remove it and put some other type of a pier. So I think I would support that, that we support the recommendation of the Conservation Commission. And I would make that motion.
Well, first let's...
Oh, you haven't had the hearing
Yeah,
yet.
this is a public hearing. We need to
Sorry.
close the hearing first, so please, let's stick to questions at this time. We were looking...
We do have a statement from the Conservation Commission with the order of conditions, with them approving the plan with the conditions, both the standard and the special conditions for this. We don't have something from the harbor master or the shellfish warden, but I don't think, since it already is currently on land, it is not affecting either the harbor or any of the shellfish issues.
That would be my guess, that's why we don't have any recommendations from them, because there's no, this is not new construction within the...
No, it's repair and maintenance of an existing structure,
Right.
and then everything else is outside of above mean high water.
Okay. Do we have any other questions from the board? right, this is a public hearing, so if there's anyone in the audience who wishes to speak in favor of this application, is there anyone who wishes to speak in opposition to this application?
Given that we have our reports from our group and no public comment, I would move that we close the hearing.
Okay, we have a motion to close the hearing. Do we have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second to close the hearing. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposition? It's unanimous. All right, how would the board like to proceed?
Certainly, looking over the documentation from the Conservation Commission, it feels like this is one that they have looked at very carefully, and it is a rebuild of an existing structure. So I would be in support of, I would agree to support this.
I move approval of the application
Yes.
to repair the dock at 43 Church Road. I would second that.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second to approve this. This has to be a unanimous vote because these wetland hearings from the board, they require a supermajority, so 4 out of the 5 of us. Sorry?
Oh, I just said a vote of 4.
Yes. So any further questions or discussion amongst the board? All right, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposition? It's unanimous.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right. Moving right along, second wetland hearing this evening.
It's been asked for delay.
Oh, okay. There is, I apologize, there is a request to continue this to March 10. So on the request of the applicant, a motion please to continue this until March 10.
I move that we continue this hearing without prejudice till March 10th.
Second.
Okay, motion is second to continue this to March 10. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposition? Unanimous. All right. And we now have a public hearing for a road taking. In accordance with Section 22 of Chapter 82 and Chapter 80 of the Massachusetts General Laws, the Board of Selectmen will hold a public hearing on Monday, February 24, 2014, in the Selectmen's Meeting Room to consider the layout of Elizabeth Jean Drive, 1,491 feet, and to vote as a town way and to vote any betterment assessments. Any person or persons interested or wishing to be heard on the proposed layout may be heard this evening. Preliminary plans of the layout are available in the office of the town clerk here in Town Hall. We have a recommended motion. Is there anyone here who would like to speak in favor of or in opposition to this proposed road taking? It's pretty straightforward. We've done this on a number of occasions, and this is another one of the private roads in Falmouth that the town will take, and it will become a public way under the jurisdiction and the maintenance of the town.
Maybe just a couple of comments. I know a lot of the neighbors are here this evening. These neighbors have been waiting for more than 10 years. The current board may not recall, but the Board of Selectmen established a moratorium on the taking of private roads back in 2002. And Elizabeth Jean Drive was the last road to have their plans and petition on file and ready to be accepted as a town road in 2002. They've been waiting very patiently since that time to have the road taken as a public way. As you know, we're just completing the roads up in the Shumat Valley. That road betterment process will be done this spring, which allows us to move forward with the work on Elizabeth Jean Drive. So I just wanted to thank them for their patience. There are many, many more behind them in the same circumstances, and we'll continue to take a look at the town's fiscal capacity to take on additional private roads as funding is available and the public works crews are available to facilitate that work on behalf of the residents of the town.
Mr. Jones?
Just so people are aware that this is a part of our 100% road betterment program, so the cost of actually improving the road will come to the residents. There are 22 abutters to the betterment. The total cost for doing this work is $217,596, and that will be broken up among those, at which point then it does become a town road and the town's responsible for maintaining it, but the initial cost will come to those 22 abutters.
And if I could say, the cost cannot be higher than that, but it could be less than that. So if it were less than that, then it would be distributed appropriately at whatever cost. I think you've probably already been notified of that.
So with that, I'll make the motion. I move to vote to lay out Elizabeth Jean Drive as a public way.
I apologize.
Oh, we have to close the
Public
hearing
hearing, any last, anyone who would like to speak in favor of or in opposition? All right, with that, a motion to close the hearing,
I move
please.
we close the hearing.
Motion to close, do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition? Okay. Mr. Jones.
I move to vote to lay out Elizabeth Jean Drive as a public way in accordance with the taking plan submitted to this meeting and to adopt an estimate of $217,596 to be divided among 22 abutters to the betterment. The total cost of the improvements shall not exceed the cost estimated.
Second.
Okay, motion and a second. Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition? It's unanimous. Congratulations, folks.
Welcome. You're welcome.
All right. Next on our agenda, we have a liquor license hearing. Notice is hereby given under Chapter 138 of the General Laws as amended that BLB 638 Incorporated, doing business as North Falmouth Liquors, has applied for a transfer of an all-alcoholic retail package store license located at 362 North Falmouth Highway, a hearing to be held this evening. Good evening, sir.
Good evening. How are you all?
Very well. Could you please identify yourself for the record?
Yes, my name is Swapnil Gambhir, and have reached an agreement with Bill Newman and Glenn Cully to purchase North Falmouth Liquors. A little bit of my background. I moved here from India 20 years ago, went to school at Northeastern, held several jobs while going to school, and after graduation worked at several retailers, Staples and Talbot's on the South Shore for about 6 years. I have an MBA from Babson College, and currently work for a big company, but looking to make the transition to purchase and run a business, and looking forward to moving here and working within the community. So, any questions?
Questions from the board?
Because Mr. Murphy is not here to ask the question about making sure that all your sellers are going to be certified as, not tips, but...
Absolutely. I have already taken the tips course. I have signed up for, so I have tips certification. The current owner who's here, he's going to support me through the transition. So he's willing to stay around for about a year. Currently, the employees are tip certified. Going to take that very seriously and make sure that we comply and obey all the laws and do what we can.
Okay.
We do have on record from the police department that they've done the query check and they have no concerns. The department has no problem with their request. We have a report from the Zoning Board of Appeals that it is located within the Wild Harbor River Coastal Pond Overlay District. The property has commercial operations, no special permits needed, and they have no issue with the request. And also from the building commissioner, they are not opposed to transfer at all, and they know zoning violations at this location.
Appears we have all of the paperwork in order. You said you had some notices for us?
Yeah, I had some paperwork that I was supposed to provide to Carolyn Grasso. I have some originals and copies, but I can provide the copies.
If you could provide them to us, we can include them in the record.
Absolutely.
Any other questions from the board? Thank you. I noticed you had the green cards. I think those, we actually have to have the originals for that.
Oh, you do?
This is actually, I do believe we have much of this in our file already. Is this your copy?
So it's probably these ones.
Yeah, those would be, that's, yeah, the abutters are what we need.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
No, it's all right, that's all right. And you have, If you want, you could keep your copy. We just need the originals for the record. Okay. This is a public hearing, so if there's anyone who wishes to speak in favor of this application, is there anyone who wishes to speak in opposition to it? Hearing none.
I move we close the hearing.
Second?
Motion and a second to close the hearing. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposition? It's unanimous. How shall we proceed?
I will move approval of the transfer of the alcoholic retail package store license to North Falmouth Liquors.
BLB 238 Inc.
No, sorry, it would be BLB 638.
So we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second to approve the transfer. Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposition? Unanimous. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, the next item on our agenda, we have some interviews for the Senior Center Site Feasibility Working Group. Let's see, first on the list, Joe Dowd.
I think he withdrew.
Oh.
Is that correct today?
I-
Mr. Dowd withdrew?
Mr. Dowd withdrew? Okay, I don't have that information here in the file. Joseph Clancy?
Good evening.
Good evening. If you could introduce yourself and explain a little bit about why you'd like to be a member of the working group.
Certainly. My name is Joseph Clancy. I reside on Courier Road in East Falmouth. I am a practicing professional real estate appraiser and have been all of my career. I moved to Falmouth in 1974 for that express purpose. Came to Falmouth and never left, loved it here. I've done work for the town of Falmouth as a contractor, as well as the 300 Committee, as well as numerous banks, private customers, and so on and so forth. I'm active in all facets of real estate appraisal. I've become an expert with regard to the courts in testifying about all real estate matters. I follow our local zoning bylaws. I read the zoning bylaw opinions, and I watch on television avidly the Board of Appeals and planning boards and watch the decisions. And just to see how they interact and affect all of our lives as the town develops and moves forward through the years. I'm also involved with my son Greg, who happens to be a local builder, and I do the site selection, building permitting, utility connections, utility applications, work hand in hand with him, with the building department, and whatever other permits are required. So from that aspect, I get involved in site selection on a weekly basis. Presently, I'm working on a piece of land and developing it with my son, and we're doing some development work personally, and we're working on a water line extension, an extension of the power lines. So it's an everyday application in doing site work and development work. Last year, I assisted a friend to get a affordable apartment unit permitted through the Board of Appeals successfully, and today there's a family occupying that unit just as the board had voted. I do construction disbursements with local banks. I'm working on an assisted living facility whereby appraisals were done from blueprints and site development, and I go back to the site regularly and see the progress and understand how everything fits together. I think that pretty much describes my professional talents, but from a personal level, I feel like I could help the senior center acquire a site or work with a site and bring the pros and cons of it so that the board could then make an accurate determination for the future home. Thank you.
Thank you. Questions from the board? Mr. Jones?
Just curious, what do you think is the top priority in a site for the senior center?
Parking. I think parking is critical. My second choice, you didn't ask it, but I think wastewater is extremely important. I know there may be a number of sites that may be under determination, They all seem to be close to town and maybe in water recharge areas, so I think that's important to understand as well.
Anyone else?
In addition to your professional skills, what knowledge or skills would you bring to the working group that might relate to your knowledge and understanding of senior citizens and their needs, and what sites might be most suitable to seniors in terms of what is going to make them comfortable, would make them perhaps want to participate in activities at the senior center, things like that in terms of the needs of the citizens themselves?
I had my late mother lived in Dennis, and I encouraged her to go to the Dennis Senior Center without much success. As I get to the age where I'm thinking about retirement, I see that our senior center is just deficient in many, many ways. The late John DeMello, who our present center is named after, was a mentor of mine when I came to Falmouth. I was pleased that that center was named after him. I've been in that building, and it's just not attractive. So I think if we can build a building that would enrich people's lives and want them to come to that building for many, many reasons, medical reasons, health checks, social, interaction with professionals who we may have come to the building to aid them in financial planning. So I can see that it will be a multi-purpose building that would draw them in and make them want to use this new building.
My other question would be, how well do you work with other people in a group in terms of understanding what their positions are, and maybe they could be adverse to yours, and how you come to compromises in terms of your own thinking and the group's thinking?
Well, in high school, I was voted best-natured. We can start there.
Did it stick?
It has. As a professional, I've been I've been asked to work with a mediation group whereby people's differing opinions are always on the table. And as an appraiser, I have to show my opinion, put it in writing, and all of my appraisals are presented to other appraisers who may have a differing opinion. And a loan or an appraisal doesn't get fully accepted until a meeting of the minds is taken place, whereby you have a divergent opinion that is shown to you. So you are always shown somebody else's opinion that may totally disagree with you. So you have to understand what the other side is thinking, what their rationale, and be able to accept that maybe my opinion may not be as merit-based as someone else's. So I'm open. I feel that I'm an open person and open to suggestions.
Thank you.
Ms. Moffett?
I was going to ask the same question as Mrs. Flynn did about how your personality fits in with the committee. But what is your connection with the senior center at this time?
I have no connection at the moment. I saw the ad in the newspaper, and I was simply drawn to say I need to get out there and do that, and at least apply to see if my talents, expertise, and my time would be useful to the board.
That's exactly what was going to be my next question then. What led you to the point of filling out an application? So
I saw the ad in the
I'm very
Enterprise.
pleased that it was self-motivated then.
Thank you.
Okay. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you very much.
Pleasure. Thank you.
Next on our list is Raymond Young. Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Raymond Young. My residence is 33 Johnson Street. I'm a lifelong resident of the town of Falmouth. I'm a registered land surveyor. I have a bachelor's degree in civil engineering and have roughly almost 40 years experience in site design and public works. I worked for Holmes McGrath for about 16 years. I had a small amount of consulting during one of our turn downs, and I ended up working for the town in the engineering division. I began as the inspector, moved on to the town surveyor, and prior to retiring in 2009, I was the assistant town engineer. And as such, with that job, we did a lot, and Most of the work I did was checking projects for different boards, working with the different boards, filing with conservation, and in project development. We would start with problems. We had to work our way up through the problem, design the problem, permit the problem, get it built, and close out the project. So that's the level of experience I have. I am responding because I read it in the paper. From a personal standpoint, you would get, when I worked for the town, two questions would come up. We want to do something and we need a piece of land. Where can we go? Where is it? And the second one was, how much will it cost us to do this? And the unanswered questions I always had was to do what? Because if you don't know what you're doing, you can't tell where you are. And then as far as how much money you want, you need to know, have your design, have your site, have your permits and everything. Then you have a firm number that you can move forward for. A lot of people are looking for it, and the pressure on that is often the way we perceive we need to do business. People want to get a project before the board, before the town meeting, and have money. I've had projects that I've been involved that the funding was up front without any of the prior materials there. And what they were requesting to do, in the end, we had to do something different. As far as this particular project, I know that I'm familiar with the site and I know the conditions, and it's a very limited site. So it makes it very difficult for anyone to do anything with that site. As far as expanding the needs that we have, from a personal note, I am retired, getting older, and I may be looking for a place. But in my family, I've had two older relatives, aunts and uncles, and they were able to take care of themselves. And then they eventually had to be taken care of by a family member, which has turned out to be my older sister, who was a teacher, and she was retired. She's been retired for 14 years, and for 14 years, 12 of the 14 years, she's been taking care of one relative or another. I also see this. There's how am I going to put this? I've come to find out how expensive it is to be old in the last year, because I see what the cost it is for my uncle, who is partially disabled. I mean, he has all his faculties, has no, but he is partially disabled, and he's moved out, had to move out of his house, and he's moved into an area. So I have some interest in seeing a development of what other type of facility we can to help people like that, on people who are shut in and have it. And so that's basically the interest. And again, I saw the ad in the paper and saw what you were looking for and said, I'm retired, I've got some time, other than my other projects, to try out. Thank you.
Thank you for applying. Questions from the board? Mr. Jones?
I'll stick with the same one. What would you say are your top priorities in picking a site for the senior center?
Picking a site. Access to the public transportation system, which is extremely limited. I mean, basically, our public transportation runs Woods Hole Road, 28 out. The other would be, I think if you can get it centralized, perhaps close to some of our retirement facilities. We have, I think, 4 of them in the downtown area. Parking, of course, because we can't expand without more parking. Of course, a site near the sewerage, hopefully on the sewer. It's going to be difficult because a lot of our we have the issues with flood zoning, and also you have wetlands. So it's going to be difficult to find a large site, depending on what it is.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
You pretty much answered my first question about a knowledge of seniors and what kind, and what knowledge would you bring to the group. So I'll ask my second question, and it's how do you work with groups of people, particularly if you have members of the group that disagree with you, perhaps in some of your ideas. How do you work together in a group?
Generally, in the end, I've tried always to take a neutral position initially. I mean, there's always different ideas. I think more consensus is what I want. I'm not so set in my idea that it isn't. I mean, if there is something definitely that, from my experience or my knowledge based on professional, I will definitely press that. But I mean, from a, should we do this, should we do that? And one other thought I have, there's always this confusion between wants and needs. You know, needs are always wants, but wants aren't necessarily needs, and that doesn't. So I work fairly well with people. I don't tend to find myself to be the expert.
I remember you well, Ray.
I do have expertise.
Okay. Have you been in our current senior center?
Not recently.
Okay. It's been a while?
Been a while.
Okay.
I haven't, we had to do some site work there, 10, 12 years ago, and that was probably the last time I was on the site. Okay. But I'm very familiar with the site, the area around it.
Okay.
Very familiar with it.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you very much. We have the two applicants for the one position. As I've often mentioned before, I'm inclined to stew on this for about a week and see if the public has any feedback on these two candidates, and then come back and vote on this. We could do it as early as next week if we wanted to, but...
Well, when are the next meetings for the group, the feasibility?
Well, would you folks like to...
Let's see when they need this member.
Good evening, Jim Vieira, Chairman of the Council on Aging. We had our first introductory meeting last week on Tuesday with the members that have been appointed up to this point, and we're intending to continue to meet on a weekly basis.
On a weekly basis?
On a weekly basis.
Okay.
So we'll be meeting again this week.
Okay.
Well,
A
then-
question. Is there any reason why we couldn't appoint both? It doesn't have to be one.
Well,
does it?
it does, because we'd have to change the charter.
The charter?
Well, we established that the committee would be made up of a certain membership, and if we're going to add another member to it, we'd have to formally change that membership. Plus, given the fact that we didn't advertise that we were looking for two positions, there could very well be other individuals who have an interest.
I don't think the number of advertising would have made anyone not coming tonight. I think that these two people are very valid applications. Very impressive.
I agree, which is
Yeah.
why I'd like to see some feedback and see if anyone in the public knows these folks and is willing to, provide us with some feedback to help us with this decision.
Well, there are references. There are references around each one of these applications.
Folks, please. How do we want to proceed?
I think we want to proceed to think about Mrs. Flynn's idea that we appoint both of them, and we do that this evening.
We can't appoint both. That is not the way we established this committee.
But we can change it if we want to. I mean, we can. There's no reason why we have to
Well,
stick to it.
then-
If the board votes to do it, we
No,
can do it.
that's fine. I can put it on the agenda for next week, and we can have a discussion about changing it. But it's not on our agenda this week to change the composition of the committee, so we can't, that would be outside the bounds of the open meeting law.
Would there be anything restricting us from voting one member and encouraging the other one to come and be a working member of the group without being a voting member? I mean, certainly they're open meetings, anyone can go, they can contribute their information. The only thing they wouldn't be able to do is if there's a vote, they wouldn't be able to vote. But, because I do think we have two excellent candidates who I'd love to get the input from, and the only thing we're restricting is they wouldn't be official members of the committee, but they could certainly contribute just as much information and.
Anyone
input
can
as-
do that at any time.
Right.
Beach committee, bikeways committee, there's oftentimes.
Well, let's just do this one for now.
Interested individuals. But again, if we wait a week, we might have a better idea as to which direction we want to go in, and,
I think I know this evening which direction I'd like to go.
okay, well,
And
how do you want to proceed?
I really would like for us to consider both candidates this evening. And if one needs to wait until the next time we have a meeting and make that official, but I would like to invite both candidates this evening.
We can only vote for one this evening. Do we want to put the names into nomination? If so, does somebody want to make that motion?
I'll put both names in nomination.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
A motion and a second to put both names into nomination. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? All right. Go by roll call then. Ms. Moffett?
Joseph Clancy.
Ms. Flynn?
Ray Young.
Mr. Jones?
Joseph Clancy.
Oh, you folks are making it difficult for me because
That's what happens when you're chair.
that's what happens when we have four, too.
You get stuck like that.
I must admit, I do like Mr. Clancy on the face of it, and that would give us a tie vote.
You have it. Mr. Young has his hand up.
I'll be willing to,
Mr. Young, if you could come to the lectern, please.
I know Mr. Clancy, and I've worked with him on a number of projects, difficult ones. And I would be willing to work as a non-voting volunteer.
So then are you withdrawing your application?
Yes.
All right then. Well, thank you for
But I
accommodating the
will-
board. Well, with that, we need a new vote then.
We
So-
can leave the vote as it is.
Well, it's a tie
No?
vote at this point. We don't, there's no,
I voted for Joe Clancy.
No, he voted for Joe Clancy.
Oh,
It's
you-
2-1 right now.
It's 2 to 1.
It's 2
Oh,
for
I
Clancy
apologize.
and 1 for Young.
my math was wrong. So
We
then
don't
it is,
have to
it's 3
revote.
for, you don't have to withdraw your application, Mr. Young, but we appreciate your willingness to help us out here. So the motion is 3-1 in favor of Mr. Clancy, so welcome aboard, thank you.
Yeah.
And we do hope that you do participate. Thank you so much. All right. And with that, we have opportunity for the petitioners of town meeting articles to make a presentation to the board and convince us to support their articles. The first of these articles is town meeting article number 22, the high school renovation project. Ms. Fennell?
Good evening and happy birthday, Ms. Flynn.
Thank you.
And I hope you have many more.
I hope so too. Thank you.
Article 22, oh,
Margot, could you just introduce yourself for
I'm
the
sorry.
record, please? That's all right.
thank you. Margaret Fennell, Precinct 8. And Article 22 is an article that we've been trying to work on for quite a while. It has some history. In November of 2008, town meeting actually passed an article that said that we would do a review of the high school building committee process. There was no funding in that article. And I believe it was Selectman Putnam who convinced the town meeting to wait until the project was completed to do that review. Then, in 2012, at the August 27th Board of Selectmen meeting, Selectman Putnam again discussed the review of the high school building project, and the board discussed doing the review. And Mr. Murphy was the chairman, and Kevin Murphy was the chairman, and he asked the town manager at that meeting of August 27th, 2012, he asked the town manager to send a letter to the school building committee regarding doing a review. In November of 2012, the school building committee declined to fund that review. This article that we have on the warrant today provides some funding for that review. And some people have commented that this is going to be a blame game, a finger-pointing exercise. That's not the point at all.
it's about a process improvement review. What can we learn from the problems that we had with the high school building committee process? How were the decisions made? What's the root cause of the problems? And we know there were problems. There were cost overruns. There were many, many delays. There was a huge problem in terms of, I feel, the funding, because we ended up spending $5.7 million in legal fees for outside counsel. That's a tremendous percentage. We also paid $2.1 million in damages with interest as a result of the court judgment when the first architect sued the town. Why did we get to that place? How did that happen? What kind of safeguards do we need to put in place for the projects that we have coming up with the wastewater and the water filtration? We need to learn what it is that we need to do from a risk management perspective in order to be more effective and more efficient when we take up these big expensive projects that spend the taxpayers' money.
That concludes
in
your
a
presentation?
nutshell.
Okay.
Any questions?
Any questions for the petitioner?
I think one of the things that I would start with at the end of your conversation, you were saying that as other projects are going on in the town, how do we learn from the school project? And I think one of the things to always remember as far as the high school is concerned, that the rules for the high school were very different than any other project in town. We had our library renovation was started and completed within the time of the high school project. And when the state sends the rules into your town about building a public building, such as a high school or an elementary school, the rules are very, very different. Also, in that very same period of time,
Ms.
there have been
Moffett?
many
Ms.
audits.
Moffett,
I need to get to a question?
Please, because we don't
Okay.
want to be debating the petitioner. We
Well-
simply want to get information from them so that we can make a determination as to whether or not we're going to recommend this to town meeting.
Okay, so my determination is, how many audits do you think have been done on the high school?
A financial audit has been done by the state school building committee.
And how many of those do you think have happened since the school was built?
How many of those audits?
Yes.
I believe there was a final audit. I don't know how many there were in process.
Multiple.
But this is
Okay.
not,
All right.
this is not just financial. This is a process review. What were the problems? What's the root cause of the problems? And the financial would be a piece of it, but it would not be the most significant part.
Okay.
I have a question. You refer to it as a, where is it here?
A review.
It says for the purpose of review. You call it a process review. What kind of person or persons would the Board of Selectmen bring in to conduct a process review or performance review?
I
Do you
believe
know?
that was discussed at one point when Selectman Putnam provided material to the board, but there was no funding on the article. So this is to provide funding to get that review done.
Well, if I recall at the time, he was referring to an audit of the, were you not referring to
No,
an audit?
well, audit was the term that was tossed around, but in fact, Ms. Fennell is absolutely correct that it's more of a process review. We did get a prospectus, if you will. At the time, of course, the project had garnered a lot of public attention, and there was a company, Hill International, I think it was,
I recall
had
that.
provided us with some information about the services that they do and this sort of, and in fact, I had spoken with them, and they did in fact say that this is more of a review, that an audit, you know, as we've previously discussed, you go and you look at it and you say, okay, you spent
Yeah.
$5 on something, did you? Yes, you did. It doesn't ask the question as being asked here, did we even need to spend $5 on that item? You know, that's, I think, one of the bigger questions here is, did we need to spend the money and why? As opposed to, did we spend the money? And that's what the audit did.
That's what a process review is. I've
Right.
never heard of that before.
What were the
That's interesting.
choices that were made? And how were those choices, how were those decisions arrived at? What's the root cause of the problem? Why did we end up spending $5.7 million in outside legal fees?
Okay.
So the purpose of this review would still be up to us to come up with, because it
That's
does not,
right.
the petition in the article doesn't talk, it just says, for the purpose of reviewing the high school renovation project.
What we would likely do is present or submit a request for quotes, I believe, is an RFQ, is that the appropriate term? That the original proposal from Hill International was $15,000, and anything under $25,000, it's simply a request for quotes where we would submit a general idea to the various, or basically advertise a request for something, a process review, and would receive various proposals from companies that would do this, and they would define exactly what it is that they do and how much they would charge for it.
Because it sounds like it'd still be a significant debate among us if this gets passed as to what the purpose of the review is. There's nothing in the petition that puts any purpose in it. It just review the project with no intent. And that would be up to us to have to figure it out.
Or to, again, present, advertise that we're looking for this and allow the proposals to come in and give us some ideas to the definition and the scope that they would provide the services. And then the board could sort through those and say, we like this or we don't like this, and you know,
but still we'd
follow
be making a
through.
decision.
Yes, there would be decisions by the board, obviously.
Well, I think the vagueness of the wording is going to require some information provided to town meetings so they know what they're voting for. And because Doug's right, it just simply says to review the project. It doesn't say what that review involves or what. I hear what you're saying, though. It's asking questions about how could this have been avoided? You know, we spent so much on legal fees, how could that have been avoided? Something like that, those kinds of questions. But the board is somebody's going to have to explain that, I think, to town meeting, and then if it's approved, we're going to have to figure out how to do this, and not necessarily just have a firm, but going to have to figure out what the scope of services would be, and in order to send out something that people could respond to, because $25,000, that's under the bid laws, right? $25,000. If it were $24,999, you could do it one way, but once it hits $25,000, you have to go out to bid, and that's a totally different project. So, but anyway, that's beside that. It is what it is. The language is here, and we can't change it.
So we
it's
could
just
make an
that we have to
amendment
be
on
clear.
town meeting floor to
Pardon?
change, we could make an amendment on town meeting floor to change the amount. I mean, that.
Yeah, you could.
That would be something that would be feasible.
Yes, you could.
Take $1 off it, that's possible.
Any other questions from the board?
No,
I wanna make sure.
I'm all set.
Okay, so everybody's
Yeah.
satisfied. Thank you so much for coming.
Thanks.
Thank you, I hope you'll make a positive recommendation.
And the next on our list, Article 24, the All-Purpose Community Athletic Field.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I'm Karen Bissonette,
I'm Michael Duffany.
Precinct 2 now, I think I am. So we, some of our other committee members are here this evening, Jim Calparis, Sandy Cuney, but we have a very active committee. What we have done, we have a project that we have brought forth, and that project is going to bid on Wednesday. So at this point in time, we have no numbers, but the bids will close on March 13th, and we should have better numbers by then. We are hoping to ask the town meeting to approve a certain amount of money to be placed on the ballot in May. We think it's going to be around $2 million, but we don't know exactly. We have, at this point in time, We have raised $500,000 from the Falmouth Road Race, $250,000 from the Community Preservation Committee. We have commitments to build a practice field that goes along with this turf field of in-kind gifts for $100,000. And we have a gentleman in town that owns a Dunkin' Donuts who is just committed to do the scoreboard for $30,000, and we're still working on some others. But we can probably answer any question you have about any of this, so if you want to just fire away, we're ready.
Anyone?
I guess one issue that I'm confused about is with the CPC funding. First off, I think there's a restriction that that's contingent upon other monies coming in.
Correct.
And I thought they were also saying it could only be a grass field, it could not be turf. Is that, can you clarify that?
Sure, the CPC cannot pay for the turf field itself, an artificial field. The CPC money can be used for bleachers, lighting, fencing, those kind of things.
Okay.
And that's well over the $250,000 that they would have committed.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Yes, when you speak of 2 million, are you, for the ballot, are you thinking of an override? Or some other source of funding?
Well, certainly, we'd love it if the town just had the money, but it's going to, but no, we're.
Gee,
we're
let me
looking
look in my
for-
pocket.
We're looking for one time, I'm not sure if the. if it's
Debt
a
exclusion?
if that's the exact correct
Capital
terminology.
exclusion.
Capital exclusion.
And so anyways, it's a one-time, if the number was 2 million, an average $400,000 house would cost somebody $75 one time.
One time.
This is not going to repeat, it's just a one-time, and the rest of it's taken care of.
That's about $19 a quarter for those, so
Okay.
maybe a pizza.
The other question I heard from the CPC, or from the Finance Committee, was how often is this field going to have to be renovated, repaired? They're saying it's every 4 or 5 years, typically these fields get rebuilt.
No, it's more, they're guaranteed for 8 years, and then more like 10 to 12.
Okay.
They do have to be groomed, and the grooming equipment has been put in with the quote. And we hope that, we'll be able to lease this field out under the athletic department's purview, and so the money's, that's about $200 to $225 an hour, that's the going rate. So that money can be put back into a fund to be able to groom it every year, so that should be plenty to take care of the field in that regard.
Ms. Moffett?
Have you gone to other high schools that have a field similar to what we would like to have here in Falmouth? Have you visited any other places or talked with any other schools doing this?
Yes, and the facility actually in Barnstable is probably the closest to
Okay.
what we're looking for, same as what they have at Mass Maritime, except they have a couple of continuous fields where this is just a single field.
And you
So,
learn
same.
anything from their experience? Are you?
Yes, because we asked about the maintenance of it, if you will. And you do need to have a groomer, so we've asked that the groomer be part of our base bid, so we don't have to ask the town to go out and buy one. You have to know how often it has to be maintained, and you groom this field at least twice a year. You do a deep cleaning and a sanitizing of the field once a year. And what we've done with that is we've put in the bid specifications that's going to be taken care of for the first year, and then we have an add-on for pricing for 3 years for that maintenance as well, so that if the numbers come in, within the figures that we're expecting, that we can go up for 3 years of maintenance to, that gives the town plenty of time to see what they do as well, because we would expect, and we've talked to our Parks Department, that they would be doing the grooming. It's a fairly simple piece of machinery that gets pulled behind a small tractor.
In the bleachers, what's the number that you can seat in the bleachers?
812.
812. That takes care of the opponent's side also?
No, there is no opponent side.
There's no opponent's side, all right.
It's the sand.
I think that's
Single-sided
kind of
bleachers
like
at
our
this point.
basketball court also.
Yeah, single-sided.
Single-sided. Lights?
Lights, yes.
Okay.
Yep, lights, fencing, appropriate fencing. We believe that we are going to be able to have 11 toilets instead of 22 toilets because of proximity to the high school. We're in the process of getting a waiver from the plumbing union right now. So that doesn't seem like it's going to be an issue. It also will have a lift into the press box because of ADA regulations. So all of that is in our bids. So we have a book about that thick, and they reside now with Mike Ward at the school department. He's got a copy if anyone would like to see them, or I can email them to anyone that would like to see them if they would like to. But we've worked very, very hard on this project, and the Falmouth Athletic Boosters has committed to try to sell some of the seats, so that we can raise another $100,000. And we have a group of high school students that are going to try to work on it within, people approached me after I was in front of the fall athletic awards. I made a presentation to the parents and the students there, and some students came forward and would like to help try to get the kids involved as well. So
Advertising? Is there any advertising that is going to pay?
yes, well, the field will be named Falmouth Road Race Field, and the school committee approved that. That's the $500,000 gift.
You mean banners?
Yes.
You mean banners? We haven't done banners as of yet because we just don't know if they're going to be cumbersome. But as far as the press box is for sale, if anyone would like to put their name on that in the community.
Some great opportunities.
There are some great opportunities. We have, other than the scoreboard, which is now taken, which is wonderful, we have pole, flag pole that the Calparis family has purchased, and we're going to have nets and goalposts and, bathrooms and concession stand and a ticket booth that Mr. Bill Vieira is going to help us build. So we have lots of people involved in the project.
And what is your date for?
5 months from July 1st, if it is approved. So it will be
Late
November
November.
30. November 30.
Mr. Calparis?
Thank
did
you.
you-
No, but I can't sit here, I just can't. I gotta
Well,
sit
You
down.
have
yeah,
to
well,
come
if
here.
you'd like, please
You have
come
to
to the
come
lectern.
Look,
You have to introduce yourself.
thank you, I don't even need this. I was wondering where this came from, because I was involved with the purchase of this piece of equipment many years ago. But anyway, folks, my point is, this field is...
Mr. Calparis, could you identify yourself for the
Oh,
record,
I'm
please?
sorry.
That's all
My name is
right.
Jim Calparis, former
you.
administrator at Falmouth High School, almost 40 years.
I remember you.
Thank you. What I'm trying to say is that this is a good thing. This is a happy thing. There are always going to be projects that we're going to have to address. Many of these projects we really don't like to have to be involved with. But this is something that Falmouth's going to be proud of. You're going to be able to show this thing off. And when we get to 35,000, I stood up in front of town meeting and I said, when I finish, the dots will be on the i's and the t's will be crossed. And that's what this committee has done. They've worked very, very hard. Once this field is in there, it will be the field. All the other fields, for all practical purposes, will be practice fields. Everything will occur on this field. And from my experience working with other companies that I've been fortunate to consult with, these fields are predominant throughout the whole state. Plymouth has 2 of them. And I can just go on and on and on. Look, I didn't mean to interrupt here with this group because they're part of my group, but that's the way I am. I've always been this way. All I'm asking you is please help us so we can at least get it to the people, let the people vote on this. That's what I'm asking for. Thank you.
Thank you.
I just want to clarify that the field is going to be for field hockey, lacrosse, football, and soccer. So those are and as well as the band, and band, they could have band contests on it. It can be used for the young adult leagues we have, soccer, lacrosse. It can be used for Pop Warner. It can be used for youth soccer. There are lights on that field, so, it can be used, later into the evening. So there are many, many reasons. People ask me why I think it's important, and I think it's important because, that senior center we've been talking about, if we don't start having youth things in this town, we're going to need a senior center twice the size as you're planning now. So I really think it's important that this town look at, and not that we aren't good to our youth, because we are, but if you look at the numbers of children that are leaving this community, and we don't know either, there are various reasons, but we need to make this an attractive town for young people. And if we don't, who knows what's going to happen? But, you know, we'll have a very small school system, which some people might like, but I think that, you know, if you read every you know, magazines on costs of housing versus school systems, you know, there's a direct correlation between the value of your home, and I think Mr. Clancy could probably tell us this, and the school system. So I think it's really important that that this community remain vital, and this is just one of those things. So.
I have two questions myself.
Certainly.
Ms. Moffett earlier suggested that school projects are different from other projects. Does this fall into that category, or is this one of those other projects that isn't governed by different rules the way the high school was?
For the most part, this is one of those other projects, okay? The reason it's at the high school is because it makes the most sense. It's a community field, and as you know, because we came to you folks, you know, that you start to toss that around. If you have it, even if it were next door on a piece of property that the town owns, okay, it really should be on that site so that the kids are not leaving the campus in order to be able to utilize it. So from that perspective, then what it does is through your bid laws and so forth, you are regulated as to how you can do this. We can't do this, so with all-in-kind donations, we can't do this with locals like we would have, like we did at Fuller Field. Like that, you know, the press box and the concession stand behind the backstop for the Commodores and so forth, that was all, you know, the dugouts at Lawrence School, those are all built with, you know, from within the community. This one can't be that way, you know, it can be done as horizontal construction so that it does keep a lid on the costs, but it can't be done completely outside of that. So in that respect, it's governed.
Okay.
You know, but we'd like to say that this is a community project that has a home at the high school. You know, this is not a school project. No offense, it's not. You know, it's for it's for the community.
The second question I had is, and it sounds like you've done this, but confirm for me, please, if you have. I imagine you've spoken with, worked with, involved other individuals or groups that have gone through these sorts of projects before, are familiar with them, understand the scope, the pitfalls, the issues.
The engineer.
Well, we spent a lot of time talking to a lot of people from a lot of different communities in a lot of different aspects of the fields. We haven't sat with another committee because they're disbanded, if you will, or if they were the committee, they'd be in the same boat that we're in. But we have brought in some professionals from town that work for the town to help us, and it's been great. So there's been a lot of communication with, you know, interdepartmental communication, if you will, so that everybody's on board in that respect. And we have reached out, like I say, to the different communities, to different people in the community that are involved directly with their fields to see, you know, what they do, how they maintain them. We brought 6 companies in, spent 6 hours with 6 companies looking at the different turfs that they all have to offer, pros and cons and that sort of thing. So in that respect, we have, but unfortunately, there's not another group, if you will, that you can go to.
Understood. All right. Thank you.
There was one other thing I was going to say, and Chris, I don't remember now, but we hope, we did meet with 2 representatives from the Finance Committee last Friday, and I think that we pleaded our case pretty well. I'm under no illusion that they're going to have a positive motion on the floor, but I think the 2 individuals saw that it is a community project and that they like what we've done, and they know that we've worked hard, and I think that there is some support for it in the town. And I hope that if this does get voted at town meeting, that you will choose to put it on the ballot, because I know that you have the option not to put it on the ballot. That would disturb me if you didn't give the townspeople the chance to vote this up or down. So if you're not going to do that, and we've gone through all of this, I'd like to know beforehand, because I just think to be blindsided after that would not be fair to us.
Well, I'm sure when we make our recommendation that we'll include all of the information at that time, I guess. So.
Terrific.
Any other questions from the board? All right. Thanks for your time. Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And the last of the petitioner articles is the special town meeting Article 14, the school department's budget. This is a Proposition 2.5 override. Kelly Welsh was going to present this.
Hi, I'm Kelly Welch from Precinct 2. Lynn Whitehead is the top name on the petition, but she sends her apologies that she couldn't be here tonight on such short notice and asked if I would just read this for her.
Okay.
And then I can try to answer questions if there are any. I don't need to refer to the actual language in the petition, so I guess I'll skip that. So she says, over at least the past 5 years, the school department has experienced level or close to level funding. They've seen position after position and program after program cut or cut back due to budget constraints. Positions have been left empty by retirement and then not refilled. Cuts have been made to art and music programs during lean years and then not restored. Science budgets are severely underfunded, and the list goes on, as we heard from parents and students at the school committee's public hearing on the budget. Education should be a top priority in town when it comes to constructing the budget, yet this year's budget presented the school department with a $1.6 million shortfall. The proposal to cut almost 44 full-time positions, including 21 aides and 15 teachers in all departments, to make up the shortfall was unacceptable to those of us at the informational session on the school budget. And it turns out it was also unacceptable to to 700 residents who in only one day turned out to sign the petition to place this before town meeting. We are aware that the situation seems to have improved since this issue first came to light. However, it does not seem to be settled, and we are not yet satisfied, as even the best scenarios so far contain a budget shortfall. We look forward to a final vote from the school committee and will at that time be able to assess the best course of action going forward.
Questions from the board?
I have 2 questions. I know Lynn is the one who primarily collected the signatures. But is this a Lynn Whitehead petition article, or is this the school department's article? Because it says here, on request of the school department.
It's a petitioner's, Lynn Whitehead and
So
others
should it be
say, I
Lynn
think.
Whitehead, or should it be the school
I think
department?
you're thinking of a different
It
article.
would be great if it's
That's what I'm
the school
looking at. It
department
says on
as
request of
well.
the school
That's
department.
the special, that's Article 14.
Oh, that's in the
I thought that's what we were doing.
This is a special,
Oh, so I have the
That's
wrong
the
warrant.
warrant.
That's the annual
Yeah.
14.
Oh,
The special is
oh, I see. This is Article 14 of the,
special town meetings, what they, what
That's
you're
the
looking at is
special,
the
yeah.
annual.
okay.
On the
so
request
we've
of
got
Lynn
the-
Whitehead and others.
Oh, it is?
Yes.
Okay, then I was looking at the wrong one.
the regular town meeting deadline had already passed when this came to light. The only deadline that was still not passed was
Okay,
the
so then my
special.
other question is the school department going to vote on this?
The school department will vote on their recommendation for the budget, I think tomorrow night. I know it was postponed from last week. And I can't predict what will happen or where we will go from there, but I can't say, of course, what they'll do.
Okay.
Any other questions from the board? I have a question, but I don't know if perhaps you could answer it or perhaps the town manager could answer it. You mentioned earlier, as part of your presentation, you mentioned the $1.6 million deficit and the 44 potentially positions that were potentially going to be cut. That was originally, of late, it seems there's significantly, the deficit is significantly smaller and there are only a handful of positions to be cut. Do you have that figure, or do we?
I don't have the actual figure. I've heard it's close to $500,000.
Okay.
I don't know.
Do we have that figure, do you know, or no?
I don't have the exact figure.
Okay, then I apologize, I don't mean to put you on the
Understand the,
spot, obviously, it's not our budget,
The
so.
gap essentially is non-existent, other than the issue of special education, which is still being discussed and reviewed, is my understanding.
Okay. All right. Any other questions from the board?
Well, I guess I would say that the school department has a number of funding articles on these warrants. You know, stabilization funds, a couple of stabilization funds, I think, and then this article. So it would be really helpful to hear from the school committee what their recommendations are going to be on these various articles.
On
Or
this-
what,
On this one, or?
on this one and the ones in the annual as
And-
well. Yeah, okay. It's confusing.
There are a lot of them, it is, and they all affect one another, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm all set.
Okay. Any last questions?
Nope.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
And that is it for the petitioner's articles this time around.
Could we take a quick break?
That would be a good idea. We've been
So we
sitting here
can
for an
have
hour and a
cake?
half. We're going to recess for 5 minutes so that the folks in the other room can change the DVD, and we can stretch our legs.